Hi, I'm Tristan, and welcome to the EdTech Teacher Podcast. In this podcast series, I plan to share with you my love of technology and hope that I can inspire you to try something with technology in your classroom today. Let's get started. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the EdTech Teacher Podcast. My name is Tristan, and I am the host of the show. And I am so grateful that you have joined me again for episode 2 of our first season of the EdTech Teacher Podcast. Today on the show, we're going to have a look at 6 reasons that you should use YouTube live streaming in your classroom or in your school for a range of really valuable reasons to help your students, colleagues, and other people in your community. Let's get started. Alright, before we get into my 6 reasons why you should use YouTube live streaming, I thought I'd just give you a little bit of context as to why I started using YouTube live streaming and what it did for my particular organization. So during April-May in 2020, my particular Department of Education that I work for moved to a period of remote learning. We also moved to a period of restrictions on things like school assemblies and particular large gatherings. As a result of this, we had to innovate and think about new ways to be able to communicate to our school community, our students and our parents, and that is where YouTube live streaming came in for us. We took the assembly concept and we created a virtual assembly. So using YouTube live streaming as our platform for streaming, we also used the OBS open software system to create some nice graphics and transitions. YouTube has become our way of being able to communicate with our school community and our parents. And each Monday, we now hold a virtual assembly using YouTube live streaming. It's easy, it's free, it's quick, it's convenient. And that is the reason today that I'm going to give you 6 really awesome reasons that I think you should think about using YouTube live streaming at your particular school. Okay, let's go through and start looking at our 6 reasons to use YouTube live streaming. Reason number 1, and I've alluded to this already in today's podcast, and that is to conduct virtual assemblies with your student and your school cohorts. You can basically do everything that you do at a physical assembly just virtually using YouTube live streaming and an open software system like OBS. You can create streams, you can create slides, you can create transitions, you can include video clips. You can do everything that you can essentially do at a live assembly except virtually. It's easy, it's quick, it's convenient, it's free, and it doesn't involve a lot of extra equipment or work. It's really simple, it's really effective. I've been doing it for about 10 weeks now. We have some really great episodes, really great virtual assemblies. Look, there have been a few hiccups along the way, but we're getting better at it every time. So, virtual assemblies is my first reason why you should use YouTube live streaming as a way to communicate with your school community. Alright, reason number 2 that I believe you could use YouTube live streaming is that it is a great platform for instantly sharing successes within your school community. You might have a sporting carnival and you want to share the winning house. You might have had a performance and want to thank somebody or the cast or crew for that particular performance. You may have an assembly, a presentation night. You might have a particular event that you need to share with your community. YouTube live streaming allows you to do this. Sometimes parents and carers can't make it to see their children receive awards, win events, participate in sporting opportunities. So YouTube live streaming provides an opportunity and a platform for this to happen. Plus, you're able to record this particular event. You're able to recognize these successes and share them with your community again later. So using YouTube live streaming to share instant success stories is another great reason that you could use YouTube live streaming in your school today. All right, reason number 5 why you could use YouTube live streaming in your school. So very similar to reason number 4, which was to look at using YouTube live streaming to present online professional development. Have you considered using YouTube live streaming to conduct student study days? You might be teaching senior students at your particular school who are preparing for final examinations. And at the moment, due to a little virus going around in the world, we need to limit our large gatherings of people to try and prevent this particular virus from continuing to spread. So one way that we might be able to share our knowledge and help our students consolidate their understanding is by having online lectures, recording them using YouTube, providing the opportunity to use the chat feature, creating a Twitter hashtag. They are really great and simple ways that we can still conduct student study days. They don't require a lot of technology. They're free, they're easy to access, and they're a really simple way to make our senior students feel valued during this very turbulent time in their lives as they are coming to maybe the end of their high school times, and just giving them a little bit of an opportunity to be successful as they go through this strange time in the world. So using YouTube live streaming for student study days is another really great way that we can have a positive impact on our students and our community. All right, we have made it to reason number 6. In my 6 reasons to use YouTube live streaming podcast today. Now, this is probably one of the best reasons why you should use YouTube live streaming if you want to communicate with your students or school community. And that is that you can share your live streamed recorded video basically anywhere. It's recorded and uploaded on your YouTube channel if you make it public. You can share it on social media. You can place it on your website. You can basically share it in any format that you like. I think this is one great feature of YouTube live streaming. You can share your live stream as it's recorded, as it happens, with your community after it is presented. YouTube live streaming also gives you a range of editing options, so you can edit it if you need to. Okay, you can trim it, you can change it up a little bit using the various features available in YouTube Live Studio. So using YouTube live streaming is great, and it gives you lots of functions and features to be able to share that live recording with your school community at a later time. Another really great feature and reason to invest and have a go at using YouTube live streaming in your school community. All right, so there were 6 really great reasons why I believe using YouTube live streaming is a great way to communicate with your school community. Now, I do understand that YouTube is a bit of a contentious software platform that is around, and you may have restrictions depending on where you are located. If you do have restrictions and staff are able to access YouTube, perhaps they use YouTube to share the particular event that you are presenting with your school community. Students may have restrictions accessing it, so you need to be mindful of this if you are choosing YouTube live streaming as an option. Just remember that you are able to download the live recording after it is recorded, so that is another option that you can use to share the live stream. Not ideal, but another option that you can use to share it with your community. Now, just make sure that when you are starting to use live streaming for the first time, that you are aware that you do need to set up your live streaming capabilities within your YouTube account. So when you are in YouTube, you need to firstly go to the little create icon up in the top right-hand corner of your YouTube account. You need to click on that and click on Go Live. If you haven't done so already, you need to follow the prompts to verify your channel, all right, just so YouTube knows that it is a legitimate channel. You'll also need to follow the prompts to enable live streaming. Now, this can take up to 24 hours, and it took 24 hours for my particular channel to be verified and set up for live streaming. So if you are planning on using live streaming, please make sure that you verify and follow those prompts well in advance to ensure that you are ready. Another really important tip is maybe get in there and have a go at using YouTube Live Studio before going live for your first time. It's okay to have a practice. You don't need to tell people that you're having a practice. They don't need to tune in. And it's an easy way to have a go at using the Live Studio, the YouTube Live Studio functions, and seeing what you need to do to have a successful live streaming broadcast. It is really simple to use. It does get easier the more you do it, which is just like anything that we do when we are teaching. The more we do it, the better we become. So YouTube live streaming is another really great way that you can communicate with people. So have a think about using it today in your particular school and see what it can do to help you during these very interesting times that we are currently going through in 2020. So YouTube live streaming, another really great way to communicate with our school communities. Well, that brings us to the end of Season 1, Episode 2 of the EdTech Teacher podcast. Thank you very much for sticking by. I greatly appreciate you listening to this little podcast that's been created by this very eager person in regional Victoria, Australia. I greatly appreciate you sticking by and continuing to support me on my journey. I'm sure that my podcasts will get better over time as I get used to creating and presenting them. It is a journey, and I expect that it will take me a little bit of time to get in the groove and figure out how to do this podcast thing correctly. But hey, I'm going to do what we do with our students. I'm going to keep persevering, trying, and I know that I will continue to get better. In the meantime, don't forget to follow us on Twitter, join our Facebook page, or go and check out our website, www.theedtechteacher.net, for great YouTube videos, tutorials, infographics. There's some blog posts there. There's some various templates that you can use. I'm continually adding to it, and hopefully over time I can make it a really valuable place to go and get some inspiration and help so that you can implement and integrate technology into your classroom. Anyway, I am Tristan, and thank you very much for joining us this episode. I greatly appreciate your support, and until next time, stay safe. Thanks for listening to the EdTech Teacher podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or visit our website, www.theedtechteacher.net.